Rocking and rolling here at Sports Pharmacy. This is Sean Casey, registered dietitian, movement coach. One of my favorite sport pharmacists, Miss Jess Beal. How are you rocking today, Miss Sports
Hello.
Dietitian?
We're good. We're
Or
good.
sports pharmacist. Oh my gosh, I
Sports
totally just
pharmacist,
butchered you there.
sports dietitian. I think that'd be super cool to have, though. I feel like
uh,
maybe one day that will be. I'd have to go back to school. I know
uh-huh.
lots more schooling, and I said I wouldn't do any more schooling, but I may take that back one day.
Absolutely.
I did
Well,
really enjoy my like nutrition certification courses, though. Like
yeah.
I think I geek out on stuff like that, and being a weightlifter and understanding nutrition and having recovered from like an eating disorder has been super helpful to understand it all. So maybe one day.
Yes, yes. Keys there. We can definitely work those together. And when
Yeah,
I think about working those together, I think about how both food as well as chemistry, from a pharmacist standpoint, plays into performance.
true.
And there's nothing more important than performance than during the time you're actually performing, which ties into
True.
intra-workout nutrition, right? See how I did those
Like you,
jumps?
you did that in a big loop. You did that. But well done to introduce our topic for today of intra-workout nutrition, something that we get lots of questions on. I'm sure you get it more than I do on like sports drinks. Probably the
Yeah.
number one thing that people think about when you bring up intra-workout nutrition.
Yeah, it is one of the biggest things. And whenever I think about intra-workout nutrition, again, my mind always goes to the whole picture of the athlete performance standpoint. And one preface we talked about a little bit in our pre-workout video is the idea of, if we're entering into a game, a competition, a tournament weekend, and if our fuel stores are not already well set during that event or during that weekend tournament, it's going to be impossible to play catch up. So that is just one thing I want to make sure we reemphasize: the importance of fueling your body all the way up to the event itself properly. That way you're not starting in a hole right off the board.
I love it because definitely it's not just the night before, it's the whole week leading up to it. I feel like the same goes for sleep and hydration. Nutrition plays a role in that, of making sure that your body is well prepared for this competition or tournament, and you're not starting already in a deficit.
No, absolutely. And one of the things that we were talking about, as you mentioned, one of the key things when people think about intra-workout nutrition, they're thinking about sport drinks.
Yes.
So with that being said, if you could share a little bit on how you have the hypertonic, the isotonic, these are probably words that people may have read when they're trying to search online. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? Just give us kind of the 101 on that stuff.
Okay. So you have basically what you're looking at is the solution that you're drinking have more, basically, is it more concentrated than your blood or less concentrated or the same? So hypotonic is going to be something that has less carbohydrates in your blood, and your body will basically take the solution you're drinking and push it into your blood to provide hydration. And isotonic is the same concentration as your blood, so you'll get the electrolytes and some of the sugars. And then hypertonic is very like high concentrated sports drinks with a lot of carbohydrates in them. And for those, I find that it tends to actually draw out the water a little bit from your body and put it into your GI tract to make that less concentrated that you just drank. So I like to think of hypertonic as more like a good post-workout drink. I hope that makes sense. Did that make sense?
No, that's good. And I want to say, please correct me if I'm wrong, it's roughly about 8% solution is where it's kind of what they're finding in various studies in
Yes.
terms of the absorption at the, kind of the peak rate.
Yep.
Because that's something too that's really important for people to realize. It's not how much water you drink, especially from a hydration standpoint during a workout. It's not how much water you drink, it's how fast and how quickly you can absorb that hydration into your body.
Correct.
That will have a big impact on performance. So that's one thing
Yes.
to think about. And I think the other thing when I think about intra-workout nutrition is the balance of not only carbohydrates, which you need for that high energy, but also electrolytes as well.
Yeah.
Because obviously those electrolytes are going to contribute to the solution, concentration.
Correct.
So one thing that I have found on a practical level that I usually try to do is I separate my if I'm trying to get carbohydrates versus electrolytes, I'm trying to get all my electrolytes mostly from whatever I'm drinking.
Okay. I
Where
like that.
but what I do is my carbohydrates, I tend to try to get more from, be it a food source or and when I say
Gel
food
pack.
source, it's Yeah, like
Okay.
something, sugary, be it gummies, be it a gel pack, be it even like if I'm working with a client who's doing long bike rides or something of that nature, I'll even have them take like, okay, plain white bread and just put jelly on it, something that they can take, or rice balls, things of that nature. I like to separate them out. And the reason I do that is I want to make sure I'm getting enough carbohydrates.
Sure.
Now, if I'm getting all my carbohydrates from whatever I'm drinking, well, if I'm in it's much harder to monitor in the fact that if I'm in Florida where you live, super hot right now, right?
Super hot. Yes. We
So
are
I'm
drinking a lot.
exactly versus right now in Wisconsin, it's more of that cool, damp weather. I'm not going to be in Wisconsin. I'm not going to be nearly as thirsty
Sure.
up here than what I am in your place.
Yeah.
And so if I'm not as thirsty, that means I'm probably not going to be getting enough carbs
Drinking enough.
relative to the energy demand.
Yeah.
So that's usually why I like to separate things
I
out.
like
I
that.
find it easier to balance each thing with each other.
I like that. And I feel like a lot of people overlook the importance. Like, I feel like it's kind of come up a little bit more recently about the importance of electrolytes, and that you actually need the electrolytes in order, on like a chemistry level, of it helps. It actually is what transports the water into the cells. So without the electrolytes, you don't get the hydration. Like, you can drink all the water you want, but if you don't have enough electrolytes, then you're not going to absorb all the water. So being able to separate the two and figure out how many carbs you need, and if you actually need carbohydrates during sport is helpful. So instead of having your drink covered completely carbohydrate, if you're in a sport, sorry, baseball players, but I'm going to use you in this example, that may not require a lot of carbohydrates because there's not a lot of energy expenditure. You may just need the water and electrolytes, especially being in Florida, or in Wisconsin or wherever. Then you need all the additional sugar.
No,
Sorry, baseball players.
100%. That's a perfect example. I mean, baseball players, I mean, let's be honest, even a lot of people who are working out, they're lifting in a gym.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, realistically, unless you're going at pretty high, either high intensity, and when I say high intensity, I mean like short rest intervals, or you're doing continuous, most of the research even shows, unless you're going longer than 60 minutes of relatively continuous exercise,
You don't need it.
Carbohydrates aren't really going to do much during your thing. And so what I always think about too, and again, when you're picking on baseball players, and I should mention I'm a huge baseball fan of LA Dodgers. I watch them every night. So
I played softball, so
yeah.
I can't say. So
Yeah.
sorry, baseball, softball, but I played softball.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but I was thinking about like when I'm watching my nephews play, baseball or one of these sports where it's not continuous, or even when I was in, like, I was running around like downing Gatorades like no tomorrow. Like, oh my gosh, I need to have a Gatorade because I'm playing right now.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest. If we took the blood sugar level of any of those people downing those Gatorades, it's going to look like they have type 2 or type 1 diabetes, like if we did a blood sugar reading on him. So that's a key thing we got to make sure is if you're using carbohydrates, make sure it's something that actually demands it. So
Yes.
those training sessions or athletic events lasting longer than an hour of relatively continuous or very high intensive work capacity type stuff.
Yeah, I think I think we should probably, I'll throw this in at the end of, we're talking sports drinks, not energy drinks with caffeine and everything else in it. So we're looking at like your Gatorades and your Powerades, and I'm sure we're not sponsored by either, but any of these companies out there that have, basically you're trying to replenish and refuel. So it has hydration, electrolytes, and carbohydrates is what we're talking about, sports drinks.
Yes, indeed. Getting those there. Now, let's say if you're in one of the events where it actually requires the carbohydrates.
Yep.
There. Usually I'm going, I don't know about you, but usually, again, depending on the event, depending on how the body, and this is one thing we should touch on, is everyone's going to respond differently, what they respond best to.
Very much.
Especially from a carbohydrate standpoint. Make sure you're testing whatever you're doing during a training session, not during the race itself for the first time. So, everything, try those in advance. With most people, I'm doing maybe, again, depending on the event, 15 to 30 grams of carbohydrates. 30 tends to be kind of a nice middle number for a lot of people. If you're going longer per hour, how you usually going on your side? In that 30 gram range, 15 to 30?
15 to 30 is I think what most people can handle GI wise. I think you're burning so many calories and you're doing so much. I think that's all you can really put in. So usually 15 to 30, and that's a pretty easy amount to get in, and you don't feel like you're like stuffing yourself.
Mm-hmm. No,
So yeah, I agree with that statement.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
in summary, let me know if here are the summary take home points.
Okay.
One, make sure you're getting hydration.
Yeah.
One or two, I should say zero, maybe make sure you're fueling your body before the event.
Yes.
One is getting the hydration with the electrolytes. Three is using carbohydrates, roughly 15 to 30 grams. During event, if you're having an event lasting longer than an hour of continuous.
Yeah.
And four, make sure you're playing around with all these things in a practice session. Make sure your body responds properly before going into the event itself.
I agree with all four of those.
All right,
Oh,
good deal.
great job. Good
right.
summary. And if you have any questions, we would love to hear them, especially about sports drinks or intra-workout nutrition. Definitely a topic I think a lot of people underappreciate and kind of overlook the importance of. And I guess probably in summary, you as an athlete, I think you have to be, as you do training and work in different programming, you have to be a little curious and try different foods and be open to trying them and seeing how your body responds. So get curious and practice and try some different pre-workout and intra-workout to see how your body responds. You might be surprised if you adequately fuel.
Exactly. But no. Well, great episode. People have questions, comment below. Until then, we look forward, enjoy, practice, learn. And until then, we look forward to see, I totally butched that. But until then, we look forward to talking to you the next time.
Take care.
All right, bye now.